Bear walks into police station, and what it hands to the officer leaves everyone in shock. It was a stifling afternoon in Mill Creek, a small town in the interior of Tennessee. At the local police station, Police Chief William Harris was leading a tense meeting about a child's disappearance that had mobilized the community for days. The air was heavy with anxiety as maps and reports spread across the table. The silence was broken by a strange sound coming from the hallway, a heavy, dragging noise. All eyes turned to the door, which opened slowly. To everyone's amazement, a young black bear entered the room, holding something in its mouth. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Let us know which city you're watching us from. Stay tuned. There was a moment of hesitation, but it soon became clear that the animal posed no threat. It dropped a piece of dirty fabric on the floor, stained with earth and what appeared to be dried blood. The bear then fixed its eyes on the police team, as if waiting for some reaction. While many attributed it to a surreal coincidence, rookie detective Michael Carter couldn't ignore the strangeness of the act. Picking up the fabric, he realized it was identical to the clothing description provided by the missing child's parents. Ignoring Chief Harris's disbelief, Michael decided to follow the bear, which was already beginning to leave. With a jacket on his arm and a flashlight in hand, he entered the dense forest that surrounded the town, determined to discover the truth. The bear led Michael with disconcerting precision, stopping at strategic locations. First, it indicated child's footprints in soft soil. Then it guided him to an area where an old toy was caught in dry branches. Each clue reinforced the idea that the child had been there. However, the scenery began to change. The natural silence of the forest gave way to an unsettling atmosphere, with distant noises and shadows moving between the trees. When Michael reached a weathered wooden cabin, hidden by vegetation, the bear stopped and growled softly as if warning him. The structure was decrepit, with broken windows and signs of abandonment. The detective called for backup on his radio, reporting his location, but felt he couldn't wait. Inspecting the surroundings, he found signs of struggle and scattered objects, evidence that something sinister had occurred there. Before the search team arrived, a man emerged from the cabin, carrying a bulky backpack. He appeared nervous, repeatedly flicking a lighter, with clear intentions of destroying some evidence. Michael positioned himself to approach him, but the bear acted first, knocking the man down with a quick strike. Inside the backpack, there was a map with crude annotations and the missing child's personal items. With the arrival of the police team, the man was detained. However, the map revealed something alarming, a route through the forest to another isolated location. Again, the bear led the way, now followed by the entire team. The forest became denser and the group began to feel they weren't alone. Suddenly, the man's accomplices appeared armed, ambushing them. A tense confrontation unfolded, and despite the threat, the police managed to repel the attackers, counting on the bear's unexpected strength. Injured but determined, Michael followed the trail indicated on the map until he found a camouflaged entrance in the ground, a kind of underground hideout. There they found the child, frightened but alive. It was evident that the place had been used as a captive holding area. The scene was distressing, but the mission wasn't yet complete. New accomplices appeared, determined to prevent the rescue. A final intense battle took place, with the bear playing a crucial role in protecting the child. Finally, with all attackers neutralized and the child safe, the bear slowly retreated, disappearing among the trees without any warning. At the police station, while agents finalized their reports and local media transformed the case into headlines, Michael reflected on the events. The bear's presence was a mystery that defied logical explanations, but for him and for Little Mill Creek, it had become a kind of legendary guardian. The case not only revealed dark secrets hidden in that community, but also reinforced the importance of courage and intuition in the face of the unexpected. Mill Creek would never be the same, marked by a story of heroism and by the mystery of an unlikely ally from the depths of the forest. This extraordinary afternoon would be forever etched in the memory of everyone involved, a testament to the fact that sometimes the most unexpected help can come from the most surprising sources. As the sun set over Mill Creek that evening, the legend of the guardian bear was already beginning to take shape in the whispered conversations of townspeople, a reminder that in this world, There are still mysteries that defy our understanding and miracles that appear in the most unexpected forms. The police station's conference room remained frozen in a moment of collective disbelief. The Black Bear's unexpected visit had shattered every notion of normal protocol, leaving the assembled officers struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Chief William Harris stood rooted to his spot, his weathered face a canvas of conflicting emotions as he watched Detective Michael Carter examine the piece of fabric the bear had delivered. Michael's hands trembled slightly as he carefully turned the fabric over, his trained eyes taking in every detail. The distinctive blue cotton material, the specific wear patterns on the edges, and even the small rainbow patch near the hem. Everything matched the description they had been working with for days. The coincidence was too precise to ignore. "Chief," Michael spoke, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "This is Tommy's. There's no doubt about it." He held up the fabric under the harsh fluorescent lights, revealing traces of soil that told its own story of where it had been. Chief Harris ran his fingers through his grey hair, a gesture of frustration he had developed over his many years in law enforcement. "Carter, I know you're new here, but following a wild animal into these woods..." He gestured toward the window, where the dense Tennessee forest loomed beyond the town's boundaries. "It's not just unorthodox, it's dangerous." The bear, still lingering in the doorway, turned its head toward them. Its eyes held an intelligence that seemed to transcend the natural order, an awareness that made several officers shift uncomfortably in their seats. The creature's presence commanded attention, but not through fear. There was something almost gentle in its demeanor, a purposefulness that defied explanation. Michael reached for his jacket, his movements deliberate and decided. "In all my years of detective work, I've learned that sometimes the most important clues come from the most unexpected sources." He checked his flashlight, ensuring the batteries were fresh. "We've been searching for days with no leads. This bear..." He paused, aware of how strange his next words would sound. "It's trying to tell us something." The other officers exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from concern to outright skepticism. Sarah Matthews, the seasoned dispatcher, stepped forward. "Michael, at least wait for backup. We can organize a proper search party in less than an hour." But the bear was already moving, its massive form surprisingly graceful as it headed toward the forest. Michael could see the sunlight beginning to fade, casting long shadows through the trees. Time was a luxury they couldn't afford, especially if the fabric's condition was any indication of Tommy's situation. "I'll radio in every 15 minutes, Michael assured them, checking his equipment one last time. "If anything seems off, I'll call for immediate backup." He pulled out his notepad, quickly jotting down coordinates. "Here's my starting position and the direction we're heading." Chief Harris accepted the note with a resigned sigh. "Carter, I hope you understand what you're risking here. Your career, for starters." Michael paused at the door, watching the bear's dark form waiting patiently at the edge of the forest. "Some things are worth risking a career for, Chief. Finding Tommy is one of them." With those words, he stepped out into the late afternoon air, his footsteps crunching on the gravel as he made his way toward his unlikely guide. The forest seemed to hold its breath as Michael approached the bear. Years of police training had taught him to be cautious around wild animals, but this situation defied every protocol he'd ever learned. The bear's eyes met his, and in that moment an unspoken understanding passed between them. This was no random encounter, it was the beginning of something extraordinary. As Michael followed the bear into the dense undergrowth, the sounds of civilization gradually faded behind them. The rustle of leaves, the snap of twigs under their feet, and the distant call of birds created a natural symphony that seemed to mask their passage. With each step deeper into the forest, Michael felt the weight of his decision, but also a growing certainty that he was doing the right thing. Behind them, the police station grew smaller until it disappeared completely, swallowed by the thick canopy of trees. The late afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, creating dappled patterns on the forest floor that seemed to dance with their movement. Michael knew that somewhere in these woods, answers awaited. Answers that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the natural world and his role as a detective. The forest grew denser as Michael followed his unusual guide deeper into the wilderness. The bear moved with surprising precision, stopping occasionally to ensure the detective was keeping pace. Each calculated pause and deliberate change in direction reinforced Michael's growing conviction that this was no ordinary animal behavior. Their first significant discovery came at a clearing where the soil was notably softer. The bear stopped abruptly, its nose pointing toward the ground with determined focus. Michael approached cautiously, his trained eye immediately catching what the bear wanted him to see: clear footprints pressed into the mud. They were small, unmistakably belonging to a child, and relatively fresh despite the recent weather. Michael knelt to examine the prints more closely, his heart racing. The size matched Tommy's age perfectly, and the pattern of the sole corresponded to the shoes the boy had been wearing when he disappeared. The detective carefully photographed the evidence with his phone, marking the location on his GPS. The bear watched patiently, its dark eyes reflecting an almost human understanding of the situation's gravity. As they pressed forward, the forest's character began to change subtly. The well-worn hiking trails gave way to less traveled paths, and the vegetation became more untamed. The bear led Michael through this increasingly wild terrain with unwavering confidence, moving with a purpose that seemed to transcend mere animal instinct. Their next discovery proved even more compelling. The bear guided Michael to a thicket of dry branches, where something colorful caught the afternoon light. Tangled in the thorny undergrowth was a toy, a small action figure that Tommy's parents had described in their initial report. The plastic superhero was weathered but unmistakable, its presence here confirming they were on the right track. Michael carefully extracted the toy, noting how it had been caught in the branches at child height. His mind began piecing together a timeline: the toy's condition, the footprints, the fabric the bear had brought to the station. Each piece of evidence suggested they were following Tommy's actual path through the forest. The bear's behavior changed subtly as they continued their investigation. Its movements became more cautious, and it began paying closer attention to their surroundings. Michael noticed the shift in his guide's demeanor and adjusted his own vigilance accordingly. Years of detective work had taught him to read situations, and everything about the bear's body language suggested they were approaching something significant. The forest's natural sounds began to take on a different quality. The cheerful afternoon birdsongs gave way to more sporadic calls, and the rustling of leaves seemed to carry new meaning. Michael could sense they were being watched, though by what or whom remained unclear. The bear, too, appeared aware of this subtle change in their environment. Through gaps in the canopy, Michael could see the sun's position shifting, casting longer shadows through the trees. He checked his watch and made another radio check-in with the station, keeping his voice low. Chief Harris's response crackled through with poorly concealed concern, but Michael assured him they were making progress. The air grew heavier as they ventured deeper into unmapped territory. This part of the forest felt different, less natural somehow. Signs of human presence began to appear. A discarded wrapper here, a broken branch there, subtle indicators that this remote area had seen recent activity. The bear's pace slowed even further, its powerful muscles tensed with apparent anticipation. Michael's instincts, honed by years of police work, were screaming that they were approaching something crucial. The bear's behavior, the accumulating evidence, the growing sense of human presence in this isolated area, it all pointed to a carefully chosen location. Someone had deliberately selected this remote part of the forest for its isolation. As they crested a small rise, the bear suddenly froze. Its entire demeanor changed, and a low warning growl rumbled in its throat. Michael stopped immediately, every sense on high alert. Through the trees ahead, barely visible in the deepening shadows, he could make out an unnatural shape, something that didn't belong in this wild setting. The weathered wooden structure of a cabin began to emerge from the forest's camouflage, its presence both threatening and promising. Michael knew with the certainty that came from years of investigative experience that they had found something significant. The bear's reaction confirmed his suspicions. This was no abandoned hunter's shack. This cabin held secrets, and they were about to discover just how dark those secrets might be. The cabin materialized before them like a dark specter in the forest's fading light. Its weathered wooden walls and broken windows spoke of years of neglect, but subtle signs suggested recent activity. Fresh boot prints marked the dirt around the entrance, and a thin trail of smoke wisped from the crooked chimney, barely visible against the darkening sky. The bear's warning growl subsided to a low rumble, its muscles tensed as it crouched lower to the ground. Michael took cover behind a large oak tree, observing the structure with practiced precision. The cabin's strategic location wasn't accidental. It provided clear sightlines of approaching visitors while remaining hidden from casual hikers. Drawing his radio, Michael quietly reported his coordinates to the station. "Chief, I've found something. Sending location now. Request immediate backup, but tell them to approach with extreme caution." The radio crackled with Harris's acknowledgement, but Michael knew waiting for backup might mean losing crucial time. The bear's behavior changed suddenly, its attention fixed on the cabin's rear window. Michael followed its gaze just in time to see a shadow move across the dirty glass. Someone was inside, and they were active. The detective's training kicked in as he assessed the situation, weighing the risks against the urgency of finding Tommy. As if responding to his thoughts, the bear moved silently to the left, circling toward the cabin's blind spot. Michael followed, matching the animal's stealthy approach. They had nearly reached the back wall when the sound of a door creaking open froze them in place. A man emerged from the cabin, his movements hurried and nervous. In the dying daylight, Michael could see the man carried a bulky backpack, his free hand repeatedly flicking a lighter. The gesture seemed compulsive, betraying his anxiety. The man's intentions became clear as he began pulling papers from his pocket. He was preparing to destroy evidence. Michael prepared to intervene, but the bear moved first. With surprising speed and precision, the massive animal lunged forward. One powerful sweep of its paw sent the man sprawling, the backpack flying from his grasp. The lighter skittered across the ground, disappearing into the underbrush. The man lay stunned as Michael quickly secured him, years of training taking over. The backpack had spilled its contents across the forest floor, a crude map marked with specific locations, and more disturbingly, personal items that Michael recognized from Tommy's description. A school notebook, a distinctive keychain, a small collection of trading cards. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The backup team was approaching, but Michael's attention was drawn to the map that had fallen from the backpack. Its crude markings revealed something that made his blood run cold. This cabin wasn't the final destination. It was just one point in a larger network, with another location clearly marked deeper in the forest. The bear's attention was also fixed on the map, its intelligent eyes scanning the marked route. When their backup arrived, bursting through the trees with flashlights and drawn weapons, the animal remained surprisingly calm, as if understanding these new arrivals were allies. Chief Harris emerged from the group, his face a mixture of disbelief and grudging respect as he took in the scene. His rookie detective, a subdued suspect, and a black bear that seemed more like a trained K9 unit than a wild animal. "Carter," he breathed, "I think you owe us one hell of an explanation." But before Michael could respond, the bear's demeanor changed dramatically. It moved toward the map, then looked deeper into the forest with unmistakable urgency. The message was clear: their work wasn't finished. The real destination lay ahead, marked by an X on the crude drawing, and time was running out. The suspect was quickly secured in a patrol car, but his nervous glances toward the forest's depths confirmed Michael's suspicions. They weren't dealing with a lone actor. Somewhere in these woods, others were waiting, and the next phase of their rescue mission would prove even more challenging than the first. The forest had transformed into a maze of shadows as the rescue team regrouped around the captured suspect's map. The bear's urgency was palpable, its massive form pacing with barely contained energy as Chief Harris organized their approach. The marked location suggested another hideout deeper in the wilderness, where the terrain grew increasingly treacherous. "We'll split into 2 teams, Harris announced, his voice firm but quiet. "Carter, since this bear seems to have chosen you as its partner, you'll lead the first group. Follow its lead. So far, its instincts have proven better than our best intelligence." Michael nodded, checking his equipment while studying the map's crude markings. The route wound through the densest part of the forest, far from any marked trails. The bear watched him intently, as if confirming his understanding of their next move. The team moved forward in formation, with the bear taking point. The animal's behavior had become even more focused, stopping frequently to scan their surroundings with alert senses. The forest grew denser, the undergrowth more challenging. forcing them to move slowly and deliberately. Their progress was suddenly halted by the bear's low, warning growl. The animal froze, its attention fixed on a point ahead. Michael signaled the team to take cover, just as shadows began moving between the trees. They weren't alone anymore. The ambush came swiftly. Dark figures emerged from behind trees, their intentions hostile. The bear's reaction was immediate and decisive, charging toward the nearest attacker with surprising precision. The forest erupted into chaos as the rescue team engaged with their opponents. Michael found himself ducking behind a large oak as projectiles whizzed past. The bear's presence proved invaluable, its powerful form creating confusion among the attackers, who clearly hadn't prepared for such an unusual adversary. The animal moved with almost tactical precision, protecting the officers while helping to drive back the assailants. The skirmish was intense but brief. The combination of trained law enforcement and an unexpected ursine ally proved too much for the ambushers. Several fled deeper into the forest, while others were quickly subdued and restrained. Throughout the confrontation, the bear maintained its protective stance, particularly near Michael, as if understanding its role in their mission. With the immediate threat contained, Michael examined one of the captured attackers' equipment. A radio crackled with static, suggesting communication with others still in the forest. The bear's attention had already turned back to their original heading, its behavior indicating increasing urgency. "We need to move quickly," Michael advised the team. "They'll be warning the others. Whatever we're going to find at that location, we need to get there before they can react." Chief Harris agreed, ordering the secured suspects to be transported back while the main team pressed forward. The bear had already begun moving again, its pace faster now, driven by what seemed like growing concern. The forest floor began to change beneath their feet, becoming less natural, more disturbed. Signs of regular human activity became more apparent: subtle trails, disturbed vegetation, and eventually the first signs of what they were seeking: a clearing ahead where the trees had been deliberately thinned. The bear stopped at the edge of this manipulated space, its posture tense but controlled. Michael moved up beside it, surveying what lay before them. In the gathering darkness, they could make out what appeared to be a camouflaged entrance set into the ground itself, a hidden underground facility that would have been nearly impossible to spot without their guide. As they prepared to approach the entrance, the bear's behavior changed again. Its muscled, tensed head lowered, preparing for what was to come. The message was clear: they had found their target, but their most challenging moment still lay ahead. Whatever waited below ground, it would take every bit of their combined strength and courage to face it. The team took up positions around the entrance, while Michael radioed their coordinates to headquarters. The bear remained by his side, its presence a reassuring constant in this increasingly surreal situation. As they prepared to breach the underground hideout, Michael realized that their extraordinary partnership had evolved into something beyond explanation. A combination of human determination and animal instinct, united for a single, crucial purpose. The camouflaged entrance revealed a set of crude stairs descending into darkness. Michael's flashlight beam cut through the gloom, illuminating metal walls that seemed to have been salvaged from old shipping containers. The bear remained close, its powerful form somehow reassuring in the confined space as they began their descent. The air grew cooler and staler with each step. The underground facility had been constructed with surprising sophistication: reinforced walls, electrical wiring running along the ceiling, and even a basic ventilation system. It was clear that this wasn't a hastily prepared hideout, but rather a long-term operation. The bear's movements became more deliberate in the narrow confines, its massive frame navigating the space with unexpected grace. Its ears were perked forward, alert to every sound echoing through the metal corridors. The team followed in formation, their training evident in their precise movements. Their first sign of Tommy's presence came in the form of a small shoe print in the dusty floor, perfectly matching the ones they'd found in the forest. The bear's reaction to the discovery was immediate, a soft grunt that seemed almost encouraging, as if confirming they were on the right track. The underground complex branched into several corridors, but their guide showed no hesitation in choosing their path. The bear's certainty proved invaluable as they navigated the maze-like structure, its instincts leading them deeper into the facility. Suddenly, the bear stopped, its head tilted toward a closed door ahead. Michael could hear muffled sounds coming from behind it, movement, and what might have been whispered voices. The rescue team took up positions, preparing for whatever they might find. The door's hinges creaked as they pushed it open, revealing a room that made their hearts stop. Tommy was there, frightened but alive, his presence confirming their hopes. But the moment of relief was short-lived, as shadows moved in the corners of the room. They weren't alone. New accomplices emerged from hiding spots, their appearance triggering an immediate response from the bear. The animal positioned itself between Tommy and the threats, its protective instincts matching the officer's training. The underground room erupted into chaos as the rescue team engaged with the hideout's defenders. The confined space made the confrontation even more intense, with the bear's presence proving crucial in the close-quarters combat. Its powerful form created a protective barrier around Tommy, while the officers handled the resistant accomplices. The animal's actions seemed almost calculated, working in perfect synchronization with the rescue team. Throughout the chaos, Michael made his way to Tommy, shielding the frightened child as the battle for control of the room continued. The boy's eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and amazement as he watched their unlikely guardian fight alongside the police officers. The bear's strength and the team's training eventually prevailed. The accomplices were subdued, but hints of radio chatter suggested more might be on their way. They needed to move quickly. The complex's layout meant they could easily become trapped if reinforcements arrived. Tommy clung to Michael as they prepared for their escape, the bear already moving toward the exit with determined purpose. The animal's behavior had taken on an even more protective quality, its attention divided between securing their escape route and ensuring Tommy's safety. The underground facility's corridors seemed to close in around them as they began their retreat. The bear led the way, its keen senses alert for any sign of approaching threats. Behind them, distant sounds echoed through the metal walls. Their time was running out. Michael held Tommy close as they moved through the complex, the bear clearing their path with unwavering determination. The rescue team maintained their protective formation, ready for whatever challenges might await them in their race back to the surface, knowing that their mission wouldn't be complete until Tommy was safely above ground. The underground corridor echoed with approaching footsteps as Michael and the team rushed toward the exit, Tommy secure in their protection. The bear's movements had become more urgent, its massive form leading them through the maze-like structure with determined purpose. Each turn brought them closer to freedom, but also closer to an inevitable confrontation. Radio chatter from the captured accomplices' equipment warned of reinforcements converging on their location. The bear's reaction to these approaching threats was immediate, a low warning growl that reverberated through the metal walls. Its protective instincts seemed to intensify with Tommy's presence, the animal positioning itself strategically between potential danger and the rescued child. As they approached the final stretch of corridor leading to the surface, shadows appeared at the far end. New adversaries had arrived, blocking their escape route. The bear's response was swift and decisive, charging forward with controlled power. The rescue team moved in perfect coordination with their unusual ally, their trained responses complementing the animal's natural strength. The confrontation erupted in the confined space, more intense than before. The bear's presence proved invaluable, its powerful form creating chaos among the opponents who clearly hadn't expected to face such an extraordinary guardian. Tommy watched in amazement from behind Michael's protective stance as the animal fought alongside the officers with almost tactical precision. Through the chaos, Michael spotted an alternative route, a maintenance ladder leading to what appeared to be a secondary exit. The bear seemed to understand his intention immediately, clearing a path through the melee. The rescue team adapted their formation, protecting Tommy as they made their way toward this new escape route. The ladder led to a narrow shaft, barely wide enough for the bear to navigate. Yet the animal showed no hesitation, somehow managing to climb alongside them, its powerful form squeezing through the tight space. Tommy's eyes were wide with wonder at their guardian's determination, his earlier fear giving way to a sense of security in the presence of this remarkable protector. As they emerged into the forest air, the evening sky growing darker above them, a final wave of adversaries awaited. The bear's reaction was immediate, positioning itself at the front of their group, its powerful form a barrier between danger and those it protected. The ensuing battle was brief but intense, the combination of trained law enforcement and their extraordinary ally proving too much for those who would prevent Tommy's rescue. With the last opponents subdued, the forest fell into an unusual quiet. Tommy was safe, the hideout's occupants were in custody, and their mission was finally complete. The bear stood watch as the rescue team secured the area, its vigilant presence unwavering, until it was clear that all threats had been neutralized. Only then did the animal's demeanor begin to change. Its posture relaxed slightly, though its eyes remained alert, scanning the forest one last time. Tommy reached out tentatively toward their guardian, but the bear had already begun to back away, its purpose fulfilled. With one final look at the group, a gaze that seemed to carry an almost human understanding, the animal turned and disappeared into the forest depths. The team watched in amazement as their extraordinary ally melted into the shadows between the trees, leaving them with a story that would become legend in Mill Creek. Michael held Tommy close, knowing that their experience defied logical explanation. The bear's intervention had not only led to a successful rescue, but had demonstrated that sometimes the most powerful allies could come from the most unexpected sources. Back at the Mill Creek police station, the atmosphere crackled with energy as officers finalized their reports, and local media representatives gathered outside, eager for details about the extraordinary rescue. Chief Harris sat at his desk, struggling to find the right words to document an event that defied conventional explanation. The evidence room buzzed with activity as officers catalogued items recovered from both the cabin and the underground facility. The crude map, now a crucial piece of evidence, lay carefully preserved, its markings telling a story that would have remained hidden if not for their unlikely guide. Michael sat with Tommy in the break room. The boy finally relaxed enough to share his experience while medical personnel checked him over. His eyes lit up every time he mentioned the bear, describing with wonder how the animal had fought to protect him. The child's account matched everything they had witnessed, yet somehow hearing it from his perspective made the event seem even more remarkable. Local reporters pressed their faces against the station's windows, their cameras flashing as they tried to capture any glimpse of the scene inside. The story had already begun spreading through the small town, growing with each retelling. The bear's role in the rescue had become the talk of Mill Creek, a tale that seemed to blur the line between reality and legend. The station's phones rang constantly as news outlets from neighboring cities caught wind of the story. Chief Harris fielded calls from skeptical supervisors and curious wildlife experts, all struggling to make sense of what had transpired in their quiet Tennessee town. How could they explain a wild animal acting with such apparent purpose and intelligence? As evening settled over Mill Creek, the station remained abuzz with activity. Officers who had participated in the rescue found themselves repeatedly recounting details of their experience to amazed colleagues. Each telling emphasized the bear's almost tactical awareness, its coordinated movements with the rescue team, and its unwavering focus on protecting Tommy. Michael stood by the window, looking out toward the forest that held so many secrets. The events of the day had challenged everything he thought he knew about the natural world and his role as a detective. Somewhere in those dark woods, their mysterious ally had returned to its domain, leaving behind a story that would be told in Mill Creek for generations to come. The station's walls, usually adorned with standard police photographs and notices, now featured hastily printed news articles about the rescue. Headlines proclaimed the extraordinary partnership between law enforcement and their unexpected guardian, each attempting to capture the essence of an event that seemed to transcend ordinary explanation. Sarah Matthews, who had witnessed the bear's first appearance, organized the incoming reports with careful attention. She had started a special file, knowing that this case would become part of Mill Creek's official history. The documentation would preserve the details of their incredible experience, though no written account could fully capture the wonder of what they had witnessed. As night fell over the small Tennessee town, the forest's edge seemed to hold new mystery. Those who looked toward the darkening trees couldn't help but wonder about their unusual protector, the guardian that had emerged from the wilderness to right a wrong. Mill Creek had changed, touched by an experience that would forever remind its residents that sometimes the most extraordinary help could come from the most unexpected sources. The morning after the rescue, Mill Creek awoke to find itself transformed. The small Tennessee town, usually quiet and unremarkable, had become the center of an extraordinary story that captivated imaginations far beyond its borders. Local diners buzzed with conversation as residents shared their theories about the mysterious bear that had helped save one of their own. The Mill Creek Gazette ran a special edition, its front page dominated by the story of the rescue. The editor, a normally skeptical woman who had covered local news for 3 decades, struggled to find words that could adequately describe the events. Her carefully crafted article balanced the factual details of the rescue with the inexplicable nature of their ursine guardian's behavior. At the police station, Michael found himself at the center of attention as fellow officers sought his perspective on the experience. He described the bear's actions with careful precision, emphasizing its seemingly intentional guidance and protective behavior. Each retelling reinforced the remarkable nature of their partnership, though no explanation could fully account for the animal's extraordinary conduct. Local wildlife experts visited the station, examining photographs and evidence from the rescue. They noted that black bears typically avoided human contact, making this bear's behavior even more remarkable. Their scientific attempts to explain the event fell short, leaving them to wonder about the mysteries that still existed in their modern world. The forest itself seemed different now to those who lived along its edges. Residents reported watching the tree line with new interest, wondering if their unusual guardian still patrolled the wilderness. Children playing near the woods claimed to catch glimpses of a dark shape moving through the trees, though these sightings remained unconfirmed. In the town schools, teachers found themselves incorporating the event into their lessons. The story sparked discussions about local wildlife, community cooperation, and the unexpected ways help could appear in times of need. Students drew pictures of the brave bear, their artwork displaying a mix of imagination and the genuine wonder the event had inspired. Local artists began creating works inspired by the rescue. A sculptor started work on a bronze statue depicting the bear, planning to place it in the town square as a reminder of their extraordinary experience. The piece would serve as a permanent testament to the day when the natural and human worlds had worked together in perfect harmony. The forest trails near town saw increased activity as curious hikers hoped to catch a glimpse of their mysterious protector. Park rangers found themselves sharing safety guidelines while acknowledging the unique nature of the recent events. They emphasized that while the bear had shown remarkable behavior, it remained a wild animal deserving respect and distance. At the station, Michael spent time organizing his final report on the case. Each detail he recorded seemed simultaneously crucial and inadequate to capture the true nature of what had occurred. How could official documentation reflect the intelligence he had seen in the bear's eyes, or the seemingly impossible understanding it had shown of their mission? The town's weekly community meeting, usually focused on mundane local matters, transformed into a forum for sharing perspectives on the rescue. Residents who had witnessed even small parts of the event came forward to add their observations to the growing narrative. Each account reinforced the extraordinary nature of what their town had experienced. As sunset painted the sky over Mill Creek, the town settled into its new identity, a place where the extraordinary had touched the ordinary, leaving an indelible mark on its character. The legend of their ursine guardian had already begun to take root, becoming part of the community's shared history, a reminder that some experiences defied explanation but enriched the lives of all who witnessed them. Detective Michael Carter sat at his desk late one evening, a week after the remarkable events that had changed Mill Creek forever. The station had finally begun to settle back into its routine, though subtle reminders of their extraordinary experience remained everywhere. News clippings adorned the bulletin board, and the evidence room held carefully preserved items that told parts of their incredible story. Through his office window, he could see the edge of the forest, its dense canopy now holding new meaning for everyone in town. The simple view that he had taken for granted now carried weight, mystery, and wonder. Every shadow between the trees seemed to hold the possibility of their unusual guardian's presence. The case files spread across his desk told a story that still challenged his understanding of the world. Each photograph, each piece of evidence, each witness statement contributed to a narrative that seemed to belong more in folklore than police records. Yet it had happened, and he had been there to witness every remarkable moment. His thoughts drifted to the bear's decisive actions throughout their mission, the way it had led them with purpose, protected them with intelligence, and disappeared with dignity once its task was complete. The animal's behavior had displayed a level of awareness that defied conventional explanation, suggesting possibilities that expanded the boundaries of what he had thought possible. In the town below his window, he could see how the experience had unified the community in unexpected ways. The local diner had renamed itself the Guardian's Rest, and artists had begun incorporating bear motifs into their work. Even the town's welcome sign now featured a subtle silhouette of a black bear, a quiet acknowledgement of their protector. The children of Mill Creek had perhaps been most affected by the story. Their playground games now often included pretending to be the heroic bear, and their artwork decorated shop windows throughout town. Their innocent acceptance of the extraordinary seemed to capture something essential about the experience. Sometimes the most profound truths lay beyond simple explanation. Professional researchers had begun visiting Mill Creek, drawn by reports of the unusual ursine behavior. Wildlife biologists, animal behaviorists, and even paranormal investigators arrived with their theories and equipment. Yet none of their scientific explanations could fully capture what Michael and his fellow officers had witnessed in those crucial hours. Local tour guides had added the story to their repertoire, leading visitors along the forest edges while recounting the tale of Mill Creek's guardian. Though they never ventured too deep into the woods, their stories helped preserve the memory of those extraordinary events, passing the legend on to each new visitor. Michael's radio crackled occasionally with reports of bear sightings from the forest's edge, though none ever proved to be their mysterious ally. Each call reminded him of those intense moments during the rescue, when human and animal had worked together with surprising synchronicity. The memory remained vivid, unchanged by time or retelling. The sun began to set outside his window, casting long shadows across the town. From this vantage point, he could see how Mill Creek had been transformed, not just by the events themselves, but by the way they had challenged everyone's understanding of what was possible. The town had become a place where the extraordinary was accepted, where mystery was embraced alongside reason. As darkness settled over the forest, Michael gathered his thoughts for the final sections of his report. He knew that no matter how carefully he chose his words, they could never fully capture the truth of what had occurred. Some experiences, he realized, existed in the space between what could be explained and what could only be witnessed and remembered. As months passed in Mill Creek, the story of the guardian bear became woven into the fabric of daily life. The small Tennessee town had found itself forever marked by those extraordinary days, its identity shaped by an experience that continued to inspire wonder and reflection. The forest trails that had once been simply paths through the wilderness now carried deeper meaning. Signs posted along the routes told pieces of the story, reminding visitors of the remarkable partnership between law enforcement and their unlikely ally. Hikers often paused at these markers, gazing into the dense undergrowth with quiet reverence. Michael found himself becoming part of the town's storytelling tradition. Young officers who joined the force would inevitably ask him about those incredible days. He would share the account with careful attention to detail, knowing that each telling helped preserve the truth of what had occurred. The younger officers listened with rapt attention, understanding that they had joined a department marked by an extraordinary legacy. The Mill Creek Library had created a special collection dedicated to documenting the events. Newspaper articles, photographs, and personal accounts filled carefully maintained folders. Children gathered there after school, poring over the materials with wide-eyed wonder. The librarians had noticed an increased interest in books about wildlife, particularly those featuring bears, among their young readers. Local businesses had embraced the story in their own ways. The cafe near the station served Guardian Bear Blend coffee, while the hardware store displayed a hand-carved wooden bear in its window. These touches weren't mere commercialization, but rather the community's way of honoring a memory that had changed them all. Tourists began visiting Mill Creek, drawn by the tale of the mysterious bear. While some came seeking sensational stories, most found themselves touched by the quiet dignity with which the town carried its unique history. The visitors' center, offered guided tours that focused not just on the events themselves, but on the deeper message about the connection between humanity and the natural world. The forest itself seemed to have gained a new status in the community's consciousness. Conservation efforts increased as residents felt a stronger connection to the wilderness that had produced their unlikely guardian. The town council passed measures to protect larger areas of woodland, ensuring that the natural habitat would remain preserved for generations to come. During town gatherings, the story would inevitably arise in conversations, each retelling adding to the collective memory. Those who had been present during the events spoke with quiet certainty about what they had witnessed, while newer residents listened with respectful attention. The tale had become part of Mill Creek's identity, a reminder that extraordinary things could happen in the most unexpected places. Michael often found himself returning to the spots where their remarkable journey had unfolded. The cabin in the woods had been carefully documented and then removed. The area returned to its natural state. Yet the location remained marked in the memories of those who had been there, a reminder of the day when conventional boundaries between human and animal had briefly dissolved. The children who had witnessed those events grew older, carrying the story with them. Their art classes still produced drawings and sculptures of bears, each work capturing something of the wonder that had touched their community. Teachers noticed how the experience had shaped their students' perspectives on nature and their place within it. As seasons changed and years began to pass, Mill Creek remained transformed by its brush with the extraordinary. The town had become a place where people spoke in hushed tones about the mysteries that still existed in the modern world, where the line between legend and reality had grown beautifully uncertain. The seasons cycled through Mill Creek, each bringing its own reminders of the extraordinary events that had transformed the town. As autumn painted the forest in brilliant colors, residents found themselves reflecting on the deeper changes their community had experienced since those remarkable days. The Mill Creek Police Department had evolved in subtle but significant ways. Their training now included special sections on wildlife awareness and unusual situations, inspired by the lessons learned during their unprecedented cooperation with the bear. New officers quickly learned that this wasn't just another small-town force. They were part of a department that had experienced something truly extraordinary. Michael's role in the community had shifted as well. Beyond his duties as a detective, he had become a keeper of the town's most remarkable story. When schools held their career days, students were less interested in standard police work and more eager to hear about the day when human law enforcement and natural instinct had worked in perfect harmony. The town's relationship with the surrounding forest had fundamentally changed. Where once the wilderness had been seen as something to be tamed or feared, it was now viewed as a place of possibility and wonder. Residents spoke of the woods with a kind of reverent respect, understanding that it harbored mysteries beyond their comprehension. Local artists continued to find inspiration in the events. A series of murals had appeared throughout town, each depicting different moments from those extraordinary days. The images captured not just the dramatic rescue, but the deeper spirit of cooperation and unexpected alliance that had made it possible. The town's annual festivals had gained new meaning. During the harvest celebration, a special ceremony honored the connection between the community and the wilderness that surrounded it. Children performed plays retelling the story, while elders shared their memories of those remarkable days. Wildlife conservation had become a passionate cause in Mill Creek. The town had established a nature center dedicated to educating visitors about local wildlife, with a special emphasis on black bears. Researchers who visited noted the unusual respect residents showed for the forest and its inhabitants. The police station's archive room held carefully preserved evidence from those days, photographs, reports, and physical items that told pieces of their extraordinary story. These weren't just cold case files, they were artifacts of a moment when the impossible had become real, when the natural world had reached out to help human justice prevail. Tommy, the child at the center of it all, had grown into a thoughtful young person who carried his unique experience with quiet dignity. His presence in town served as a living reminder of their guardian's intervention, and his occasional talks at community events helped keep the true spirit of the story alive. Michael often found himself looking out over the town from the station's window, noting how Mill Creek had been transformed not just by the events themselves, but by the way they had chosen to remember them. The story hadn't become distorted by time or exaggeration. Instead, it had grown richer through the community's collective reflection and understanding. The forest itself seemed to hold its secrets more closely now, as if understanding the importance of maintaining some mysteries in an increasingly explainable world. Visitors to Mill Creek often remarked on the unusual relationship between the town and its surrounding wilderness, sensing something special in the way residents regarded the dense trees that bordered their community. The passage of years had not diminished the power of the story that now defined Mill Creek. If anything, time had deepened its significance, revealing layers of meaning that only became apparent as the community continued to reflect on their extraordinary experience. The local historical society had dedicated an entire room to preserving the memory of those remarkable days. Alongside official police reports and newspaper clippings, they collected personal stories from residents who had witnessed different aspects of the events. These accounts, ranging from brief encounters to detailed observations, painted a rich picture of how the community had experienced their brush with the extraordinary. Michael's original case files had become almost sacred documents, carefully preserved and frequently consulted. Each review of the evidence seemed to reveal new details, subtle signs they had missed in the immediate aftermath of the events. The precision of the bear's actions, the intentionality of its guidance, the almost supernatural awareness it had displayed, all stood up to the closest scrutiny. Wildlife experts who visited Mill Creek noted something unusual about the local bear population. The animals seemed to maintain a respectful distance from the town, while remaining more visible than was typical for their species. Residents had developed an almost intuitive understanding of these boundaries, creating a unique coexistence between human and wildlife communities. The forest trails that had once been simply paths through the wilderness now carried deeper meaning. Hikers reported experiencing a profound sense of connection with their surroundings, as if the woods themselves held memories of those extraordinary days. The very air seemed charged with possibility, especially in the spots where key events had unfolded. Local teachers had incorporated the story into their curriculum, using it to explore themes of cooperation, trust, and the mysterious connections that could exist between humans and the natural world. Students were encouraged to think deeply about what the events meant, not just as a historical incident, but as a reminder of the unexpected ways help could appear in times of need. The police station had maintained its connection to the forest in subtle ways. Officers on patrol paid special attention to the wood's edge, not out of fear, but with a sense of respect and awareness. Many reported feeling as though they were being watched over, protected by an unseen presence that still guarded the community. During quiet evenings, when the sun set behind the trees and long shadows stretched across Mill Creek, residents would sometimes gather to share their memories of those remarkable days. These weren't just retellings of a familiar story. They were opportunities to explore the deeper meaning of what their community had experienced. Michael had noticed that the tale seemed to resonate most strongly with those who took the time to truly listen to it. Beyond the dramatic events and unusual circumstances, there was a profound message about trust, instinct, and the sometimes blurry line between the rational and the inexplicable. The forest itself had become a character in their ongoing story, its presence a constant reminder of the mysteries that still existed in their modern world. The trees seemed to whisper ancient secrets in the wind, while shadows between the trunks held the promise of undiscovered wonders. As Mill Creek's story spread beyond the borders of Tennessee, it began to take on new dimensions. While some outsiders approached the tale with skepticism, those who visited the town often left with a different perspective. There was something in the atmosphere of Mill Creek, in the way its residents carried themselves, that spoke to the authenticity of their extraordinary experience. The police department had become known throughout the region for its unique approach to community protection. Their training programs now included sections on intuitive response and unconventional problem-solving, inspired by the lessons learned during their cooperation with the bear. Law enforcement agencies from other towns would sometimes send officers to learn from Mill Creek's experience. Michael found himself increasingly called upon to share the story with official visitors. Each telling required him to revisit those remarkable moments: the bear's first appearance in the station, its intelligent guidance through the forest, its crucial role in the rescue mission. Despite countless retellings, the events had lost none of their power to inspire wonder. The forest had become a place of pilgrimage for those seeking to understand the deeper meaning of Mill Creek's experience. Visitors walked the trails with quiet reverence, often reporting a sense of being watched over by unseen guardians. The woods seemed to hold their secrets close, revealing them only to those who approached with genuine respect and openness. Local children grew up with a different understanding of the natural world than their peers in other communities. They learned early that the line between the explainable and the mysterious was not as clear as some might think. Their games often incorporated elements of the story, but with a seriousness that surprised outside observers. The town's relationship with its wildlife continued to evolve in unique ways. Bear sightings were treated with respect rather than fear, each encounter viewed as a potential connection to their mysterious guardian. The community had developed an almost intuitive understanding of how to coexist with their forest neighbors. Scientists who studied the local black bear population noted unusual patterns in their behavior. The bears seemed more conscious of human boundaries, more deliberate in their movements near town. Some researchers suggested that the extraordinary events had somehow influenced the entire local population, creating a unique dynamic between human and animal communities. During town meetings, the story would often come up in discussions about community identity and values. It had become more than just a remarkable incident. It was a foundational experience that helped define who they were as a community. The tale served as a reminder that sometimes the most important truths transcended conventional explanation. Michael's office at the station had become a kind of informal museum, displaying carefully preserved evidence and documentation from those extraordinary days. But more than the physical artifacts, it was the spirit of the experience that continued to influence his work and the department's approach to law enforcement. As seasons changed and years passed, the story remained fresh in the collective memory of Mill Creek. It was as if the experience had marked not just the people, but the very land itself, creating a permanent connection between the community and their forest guardian. The woods seemed to hold their secrets more closely now, as if understanding the importance of maintaining some mysteries in an increasingly explainable world. The impact of Mill Creek's extraordinary experience had rippled outward, touching lives far beyond the town's borders. What had begun as a local mystery had evolved into something greater, a story that challenged people's understanding of the possible and reminded them that some truths lay beyond simple explanation. The evidence room at the police station had been carefully maintained, preserving every document and item from those remarkable days. Michael would sometimes spend quiet moments there, reviewing the materials with the same sense of wonder he had felt during the actual events. The crude map that had led them to Tommy, the fabric the bear had first brought to the station, photographs documenting their unlikely alliance. Each piece told part of a story that seemed more remarkable with each passing year. Researchers continued to visit Mill Creek, drawn by reports of the unusual relationship between the town and its wildlife. They noted how the local bears seemed more deliberate in their movements, more aware of human boundaries. Some suggested that the extraordinary events had created a lasting change in the forest's dynamics, though none could fully explain the mechanism behind such a transformation. The town's children had grown up with a different perspective on the natural world. Their education included not just the facts about local wildlife, but also the understanding that sometimes the most important truths came wrapped in mystery. They learned to approach the forest with respect and wonder, carrying forward the lessons of their community's unique experience. Michael's role had evolved beyond that of a simple detective. He had become a keeper of memories, someone who could speak to the truth of what had occurred with the quiet certainty of direct experience. When visitors questioned the more incredible aspects of the story, he would share details that no imagination could have invented: the intelligence in the bear's eyes, the precision of its actions, the undeniable purpose behind its intervention. The forest itself seemed to have retained something of those extraordinary days. Hikers often reported feeling a presence among the trees, a sense of being watched over by unseen guardians. The woods had become more than just a natural space. They were now a living reminder of the day when the boundary between human and animal worlds had momentarily dissolved. Local artists continued to find inspiration in the story, creating works that captured different aspects of their community's experience. Their pieces spoke not just to the dramatic events themselves, but to the deeper truths they had revealed about cooperation, trust, and the mysterious connections that could form between unlikely allies. The police department had maintained its connection to the forest in subtle ways. Officers on patrol paid special attention to the wood's edge, not out of fear, but with a sense of respect and awareness. Many reported feeling as though they were being watched over, protected by an unseen presence that still guarded the community. As the story spread, it began to take on new meaning for different people. Some saw it as a testament to the intelligence of wildlife, others as a reminder of the mysteries that still existed in the modern world. But for those who had been there, who had witnessed the events firsthand, it remained something more profound, a moment when the impossible had become real, when nature itself had reached out to right a wrong. The legacy of those extraordinary days lived on in Mill Creek, not just in memories and stories, but in the way the community had been transformed. They had become custodians of a mystery, keepers of a truth that defied easy explanation, but demanded to be remembered. Mill Creek had become more than just another small Tennessee town. It had transformed into a living testament to the extraordinary. The story of their ursine guardian had woven itself into the very fabric of the community, creating a legacy that continued to inspire and amaze those who encountered it. The police station had evolved into something of a sanctuary for the memory of those remarkable days. Michael's case files, carefully preserved and frequently referenced, served as official documentation of events that stretched the boundaries of conventional explanation. Each piece of evidence, from photographs to witness statements, helped validate a story that might otherwise have seemed too incredible to believe. The forest that bordered the town had taken on an almost mythical quality. Residents spoke of it with reverence, understanding that within its depths lay the truth of their extraordinary experience. The trails where the bear had led Michael were now marked with subtle plaques, each one commemorating a moment in their remarkable journey. Local schools had incorporated the story into their curriculum in thoughtful ways. Beyond simply recounting the events, teachers used the experience to explore deeper themes about community, trust, and the mysterious connections that could exist between humans and the natural world. Students learned that some of life's most important truths lay beyond simple explanation. The town's annual festivals now included elements that honored their unique history. During these celebrations, the community would gather to share memories and reflect on how their brush with the extraordinary had changed them. These weren't mere retellings, but opportunities to explore the deeper meaning of what they had experienced. Scientists and researchers who visited Mill Creek often left with more questions than answers. The unusual behavior of local wildlife, particularly the bears, continued to defy conventional explanation. The forest seemed to operate under its own rules, maintaining a delicate balance between human and animal worlds that had been forever altered by those remarkable events. Michael had noticed that the passage of time had only deepened the significance of their experience. What had begun as an extraordinary rescue had evolved into something more profound, a reminder that the world still held mysteries worthy of wonder. His role as keeper of this story had become one of his most important responsibilities. The town's relationship with its surrounding wilderness had become a model for other communities. Mill Creek demonstrated that it was possible to maintain a respectful coexistence with nature, one based on understanding and mutual respect rather than fear or domination. Their story served as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful allies could come from unexpected places. As the sun set each evening over Mill Creek, casting long shadows through the trees, residents would sometimes pause to reflect on their guardian's legacy. The bear's intervention had not just saved one life, it had transformed an entire community's understanding of what was possible in this world. The mystery of their ursine protector remained just that, a mystery. Yet it was one that had enriched rather than puzzled those who encountered it. Mill Creek had become a place where the extraordinary was accepted alongside the ordinary, where wonder and reality coexisted in perfect harmony. The story of Mill Creek's guardian had become more than just a tale of an extraordinary rescue. It had evolved into a testament to the mysteries that still existed in the modern world. As years passed, The town's experience continued to resonate with all who heard it, challenging their understanding of what was possible. The forest remained a constant presence in the life of the community, its dense canopy holding secrets that residents had learned to respect rather than question. Occasional bear sightings were treated with reverence, each one carrying the possibility of connection to their mysterious protector. The boundary between town and wilderness had become less a line of separation and more a point of meaningful connection. Michael's office at the police station had become a place of reflection and remembrance. The evidence he had gathered during those remarkable days, the map, the photographs, the official reports, told only part of the story. The true impact lay in how the experience had transformed not just individuals, but an entire community's understanding of their place in the natural world. The town itself had become a destination for those seeking to understand something beyond ordinary explanation. Visitors would walk the trails where the bear had led Michael, stand before the cabin's former location, and try to comprehend the extraordinary series of events that had unfolded there. Many left with a renewed appreciation for the mysteries that still existed in their world. Mill Creek's children grew up understanding that some truths transcended simple explanation. The story of their ursine guardian was passed down not just as local history, but as a reminder that help could come from the most unexpected sources, and that courage often meant trusting in possibilities beyond conventional understanding. The bear's legacy lived on in countless ways: in the town's improved relationship with its wildlife, in the respectful way residents treated their surrounding forest, and in the subtle changes that had made Mill Creek a place where the extraordinary was welcomed alongside the ordinary. As Michael reflected on those remarkable events one final time, he understood that some mysteries were meant to remain unsolved. The true gift of their experience wasn't in explaining what had happened, but in accepting that sometimes the most important truths lay beyond explanation. The forest continued to watch over Mill Creek, its depths holding secrets that would forever remain part of the town's identity. In the end, their story had become more than just an account of an unusual rescue. It had become a reminder that in a world that increasingly demanded explanations for everything, some experiences were meant simply to be witnessed, remembered, and treasured. Dear listeners, we hope the extraordinary tale of Mill Creek and its mysterious guardian has touched your hearts as deeply as it transformed the lives of those who experienced it. Sometimes the most remarkable stories are those that remind us that our world still holds beautiful mysteries waiting to be discovered. If you've been moved by this journey into the extraordinary, we invite you to join our growing community of storytelling enthusiasts. Click the subscribe button to your left to ensure you never miss our weekly releases of remarkable true stories that challenge our understanding of the possible. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced something that defied explanation? What did you think about Mill Creek's unusual guardian? Your perspective adds to the richness of these shared experiences. Don't forget to leave a like if this story resonated with you, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new releases. Remember, every week we bring you carefully curated tales that remind us that truth can be more extraordinary than fiction. Until our next journey together, keep your hearts open to the mysteries that surround us, for sometimes the most meaningful experiences are those that defy explanation.